Okay, so Shane here, daily-astrocat.com, and as I promised you, this is the new moon in Scorpio Daily Astrocat report. So we've got ourselves over here with the new moon in Scorpio. So what's going on here? Well, at 1:47 in the morning, that's today, Wednesday, or Thursday, depending on how you're looking at it, the moon will be conjunct with the sun, and that's the new moon in Scorpio. There's a lot to this, and we're going to get right into it right now, okay? So we can see that this... just like I said, to say that Scorpio is misunderstood, that's an understatement, right? Look, as a water sign, Scorpio is deeply emotional. It's intuitive and compassionate and subjective. As a fixed sign, Scorpio is persistent and goal-oriented. Scorpio is renowned for being strong-willed, passionate, driven, sexual, and with a little bit of a desire to get even, right? Yeah. It's the sign of death and regeneration. So Scorpio has a lust for power that comes through in very odd ways. If you know one, then you'd always know it. And it's not always direct either. And it can seemingly come out of nowhere. All right? So why all this Scorpio info, right? It's the new moon in Scorpio. Well, because we have an opportunity to take some of the best qualities that this sign has to offer and place them into our own intentions. Scorpio is powered by both Pluto and Mars. Mars in Sagittarius is feeling like expanding and moving forward despite the obstacles ahead. What obstacles? There's none, right? Mars loves the challenge. Going to be entering Capricorn after Sagittarius, right? Woohoo! Go. That's where Mars feels happiest, right? That challenge, that grounding challenge that brings Mars down to Earth and makes those efforts go. Pluto in Aquarius, now that's working on an entirely different level. Now, look, we're going to have timelines that are converging and splintering. Look, I saw where Pluto is back on some of other people's radar lately, right? Rebecca had a post about it. I've seen those posts since last year. It's interesting because, or similar post to that, not that exact post, because Jupiter is retrograde and will only be forming this aspect. There's an aspect of a kite that's going to be formed with Pluto, and Jupiter's only going to be forming that for a little bit. We're going to get into that in a lot of detail, okay? Pluto and Jupiter will have, now, once Jupiter's direct, okay, there's going to be a second iteration of this because Jupiter moves faster than Pluto. So there's the once, twice. Sometimes you get once, twice, thrice with Mercury or Venus being retrograde. With Jupiter, you're lucky to get it twice, right? Sometimes you can get it, if it depends on how close it is to the other planet, if we can get it 3 times or just 2 times. Okay, this, now, all the other planets will go beyond. Now think about this. Once Pluto and Jupiter are opposing each other again, instead of being in a kite, this is going to be a straight opposition, right? The powers that be with the revolutionary power that Pluto is bringing from that Aquarian energy, right? So, but we still have Jupiter being happy in Cancer. So that's the happy home, right? We gonna upset that? No, I don't think so, because Jupiter is much stronger than that, much luckier than that. That happy home, though, will be fodder to get Pluto moving in a correct direction, right? Rather than just trying to redress and restore and redo everything. It's got to tear it all down. Now, tear down the state of the oligarchy that existed when Pluto was in Capricorn. Now, the new moon amplifies that and more, and it pours our desires into some traditional means of expression. Current political parties, right, our ongoing efforts to reshape our systems of government, stuff like that. As part of the Uranus kite, the Pluto kite, we find that new moon stellium that's going to be in both of those. This is going to be very, very interesting. It's an uplifting energy. Women empowering women, men looking to support the rights of women. This is how we communicate. This is about how we communicate our desires, ambitions, and balance them with our beliefs and social mores. Now, goon squads. This just is a disgusting image, okay? Masked border patrol and ICE personnel terrorizing communities flies in the face of the preamble to the U.S. Constitution. Domestic tranquility, whatever happened to it, right? The common defense, right? American citizens, no, we're going after them. These are the principles that were laid down on June 8th, 1789, and that was towards the end of Pluto's sojourn in Aquarius. that began back in 1777 with the 1 year after the Declaration of Independence, right? This is the last distillation of the American experiment during that Pluto time, right? That social reformation time that Aquarius can bring about. And it's the final installment, so to speak, because that document that Monroe wrote, the preamble to, and the Bill of Rights and all that stuff, that has stood for all time pretty much until now. The use of the U.S. Justice Department and the FBI for personal vendettas, the pardons, and the list goes, there's a list that goes on and on and on. This is not a political diatribe. This is telling you where some of this energy is showing up in various public ways and hinting at ways in which it may change by the end of this Pluto cycle, right? 20 years is a long time. We're just at the very beginning of it. We're only 1 year in. Now, it isn't a political view that causes me to condemn extrajudicial killings, abuse, and violence. It is decency and a desire to see the law of our land be uniformly applied for the benefit of everyone, not just to appease those in power. Pluto, in the sign of revolution, can and will fix this over time. Okay, enough of that. Let's look at some charts, shall we? Why not? So, our first chart here is the actual new moon itself. So all these charts are going to be of the new moon, but this one here highlights what is the stellium here. Now, the stellium is that grouping of planets between Mercury. We've got the moon, we've got the sun, we've got black moon Lilith, all within 2 degrees of each other. And if you look up here, you can see that the sun, the moon, and Mercury are all at 28 degrees of Scorpio. Black moon Lilith is about 26.5. It's only about 1.5 degrees off. The sun, being a luminary, the moon being a luminary, has a huge orb, right? What's an orb? The orb is the distance that it carries to be able to be conjunct. Jupiter has a big orb, too, because Jupiter is a large planet. So you can see, even though Pluto happens to be at 1 degree, 41 minutes of Aquarius, Jupiter at 25 degrees still falls within that orb to make those 2 planets oppose each other. All right? And remember, it's from an Earth-centric view, right? So basically, Jupiter and Pluto are both on opposite sides of the Earth right now. So what else do we have going on here? Well, you can see that there's a whole bunch of these blue lines that are triangles. They're trines, oppositions of the red, and the sextiles, this little baskety thing right here that's forming. It really begins at the ascendant, but we do have a sextile. We do have a cradle right here that goes from the new moon lunation in Scorpio to Pluto, to Neptune, to Uranus. So that kind of like gives us a little bit of a unified feeling, right? We have Jupiter up above it that can actually bring some stuff into that cradle as we're protected from those forces that are all around us, that are just those sextile forces that are all working together to make sure that these things are working out. And that's how we end up with the 2 kites, by those 2 sextiles right there. The point being, the Jupiter one, you can see it wraps all the way around to Jupiter from Uranus. It's just not that bright a yellow. And Uranus and Pluto. So, with that being said, let's talk about the next slide. The next slide is actually going to show you all the players in the kites. And this is interesting because this is how you kind of look at these things when you're looking at charts. The sun and the moon are conjunct. That's that little line with that little circle with the line coming off of it. That's a conjunction. Then we have the trines. The trines, you can see they're all lined up here. Look at Saturn. Saturn, boom, 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 boom. Trine with all of that stuff right there. All of those. The reason why Saturn doesn't figure in to the kite, though, is because we don't have, or do we? I don't know. We'll have to take a look at it again. It may very well be. We do have Neptune there. We do have Saturn there forming kites, forming sextiles with Uranus. So that can very well be part of that Uranus kite. And Pluto is also Oh, that's where it falls off. Pluto is sextile Neptune, but not sextile Saturn. That's a difference. That has that fall out of that Pluto kite. So Saturn's not involved with that. Neptune is, and that's going to give that a different coloration too. There's an opposition here, which is the main thing. We see Jupiter opposing Pluto, and we also see the stellium in Scorpio opposing Uranus in Taurus. Okay, so now that we have that whole thing straightened out, we don't use the ascendant, we don't use the medium celli, because we're not using the clock faces of the charts. So let's move on. Now, the kites are everywhere, and I've repeated this this is the third iteration for this, right? There's an apex and a base that forms a central tension. The opposites attract, but in a kite, they're the main source of that tension. The surrounding structure is harmonious, and the base is the force that stabilizes the structure and allows for the apex to ascend. It's important to note that the apex is that topmost point, and that from that point, the whole structure rises, and everything works together in harmony. Now, our first kite is right here. We have Uranus at the apex. We have the stellium at the base. So all of that Scorpio desire, that Scorpio hunger, the Scorpio intentions are driving us in a way that's in Taurus, okay? We can change some Taurus things with the right amount of focus, intention, and prayer and due diligence, because we've got the spiritual aspect of things here. We've got the home aspect of things over here. We have our base. We have our expanding base. We have a chance to take a look at it and say, hey, we're doing this. We've been doing this, right? Now, how can we do this better? Retrograde planets are always looking to revise and rework and redo something. Jupiter will pass out of this point quickly and then come back to this point. But all these planets down here will have moved on. So we'll still have these talent trines up here, these mini grand trines, which are two sextiles and the blue line right there. But we also have these grand trines right here, and these factor into it huge. There's this energy that's flowing around the water signs where we are psychically active. I'm getting kind of weird stuff, right? I'm getting like clairaudient stuff, and sometimes just, seeing different things, a little bit of clairvoyance, but not, nothing earth-shattering or anything like that, but just little inclinations, hints, and stuff like that, like little voices inside your head to say, hey, remember me, you've been through it before, where all of a sudden somebody pops into your mind and you're like, hey, I was thinking, why am I thinking about this? And then next thing you know, there's something that it's been occurring with that one person or something, and that's where those kind of flashes come from, those intuitive flashes. So this is our first kite, and you can see with that being at the base there, we've got that desire just going right up, just floating right up there, and just this is a kite of accomplishment. This is a kite of something. Now, this is where we get Saturn involved too, because it has Neptune and Saturn and Uranus. The second kite I'm going to show you does not involve Saturn, and like I said, that has a different flavor to it, because what happens, we have Pluto over here, we've got Neptune, we've got that stellium over here. Now, the stellium is not at the base. The base is Jupiter. What are we trying to change? What is technology changing for us? How can we utilize that to enhance what it is that we're doing, and to make it so that we can get everything that we want and everything that we dream of, right? Everything that we desire, everything that we've been asking for. This is how we make the manifestation happen. And we do it with trying to strengthen our home base and our, where we're at with our loved ones and our families, because that's that Cancer nurturing type of thing, right? Now, I know that Cancer is not everybody's favorite sign. However, it does have a purpose and a use for you, because this is how you stick up for yourself. This is how you can gain some security, and this is how you can actually move forward by not moving forward, but moving sideways like a crab, right? Yeah, it's kind of like a defensive position, right? You're just like lateral. Okay, so that being said, that kite has a very different feel and flavor, because it's kind of kind of like changing the leveling the playing ground in some way, right? There's a change that's happening that's going to be better off for us, in the near term. Whether it's better off for us in the long run, still open for debate. However, in the near term, we want to be doing this. In the long term, I'd say we're going to have to change that system and flip that system. But that's not going to happen until all those outer planets are actually moving into the signs that they're going to be in and stay in for the next however many years. And by that, I mean Uranus in Gemini. We're talking Saturn and Neptune in Aries, and Pluto stays in Aquarius. So for 2026, we're going to be looking at all three of these still in the same position: Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. In particular, okay, pay attention to that, because that's going to be very interesting, because that's where we're going to start creating new art. We're going to start creating new projects. We're going to start breaking some new ground, and new philosophical ground as well, right? Whatever it is that you want to, spiritual ground. There's some things that are happening that's going to change, and it's going to shift as Neptune and Saturn both enter together into Aries. And that's going to affect Pluto as well, because the ruler, one of the co-rulers of Aquarius, is Saturn. So Saturn will pick up some of that Mars energy, that initiatory, that me first energy, that energy that's like, okay, we got to get moving here. And that's where you're going to start to see some changes happening. And in Gemini, when Uranus moves into Gemini, that is small tech expanding like crazy. Something's going to change. Something big is coming, okay? And that is what you got. Now, this right here is a very interesting thing. This is the extra bonus point, okay? Mars is in a sextile with Pallas Athena. Now, Pallas Athena is an asteroid, and right here it's Pallas, right? You see 11 degrees, and you can see 11 degrees. So that's 11 degrees of Aquarius and 11 degrees of Sagittarius. That would be a sextile, 60 degrees apart. So Pallas represents wisdom, right? Athena, sprung from the head of Zeus. Creative intelligence, strategic thinking, and like artistic expression, problem solving, and social justice. And her symbol is the owl. Okay, so owls and falcons, those are the birds I've been talking about lately, right? Now, look, please listen to your inner wisdom, because this is where we're going to wrap this up. I really do. I appreciate everybody that comments on these things and tries to boost the visibility of my posts. This is my gift to all of you. Okay? Now, I end on Pallas Athena because this is the kind of energy that we require to move beyond the odd timelines that have us trapped in crapshoot of politics and world events and stuff like that, and things that are going on, and to help us move beyond that timeline that we're sharing on that level. And with respect to society writ large, we need to move beyond that. Our personal timelines are the ones that we have the most control over, okay? That's what we have. Now, you may be looking at all these crazy numbers on this thing, right? And looking at it. Okay, so we have the degrees. We have our latitude and speed. Okay, that's a kind of curious thing too, right? This tells you what the houses are of it. That's degrees, minutes, seconds. This tells you where the house cusps are at. And then we have all the asteroids over here. Now, you can see that, we have Makemake, we have Haumea, we have Eris, some things that you've seen, some things that I talk about, Sedna, there's Varuna down there, there's Juno, there's Ceres. Okay, some things I don't talk about. We have talked about Vesta. There are 3 different forms of Lilith, and we can get into that, but that's not really worth going over right now. So, let's see. Use the Scorpio New Moon, okay, for learning, for stuff like this, right? It's kind of Sagittarius, right? We're coming into that on Friday. Mars is already there, so that's some of that action too. Use the Scorpio New Moon to set some intentions, right? Reset some gems. Do whatever you got to do. Do your rituals, whatever it is that you do for a moon. You do you, boo, okay? I like making moon water with new moons because that's when I was born, right? I'm a new moon child. I'm actually an eclipse child, so there you go. are. Now, Scorpio is selective as far as what battles it will actually fight. So let's see. How are we going to do this? We're going to become vocal. We're going to get the word out there. We're going to see who we attract and be done with what no longer serves you. Okay? Let this rub off on your efforts, okay? Make sure that you pick that right fight. Have it rub off on your efforts. Be intentional, strategic, and a little bit like Scorpio, cunning. A little bit of ruthless, and have that long memory, okay? That's all I have for you. Thank you so much. I always end these with that cat going crazy on the things because that's what my cats look like, all right? All right, so please take the time to like this video, smash the buttons, do all that stuff. Subscribe. daily-astrocat.com. Website. You can get the long form of this. I'm going to put this on the podcast as well. The podcast is at YouTube, daily-astrocat.com. You can also get it wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and click the notifications. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate and love every single one of you. Happy astrocatting.